What's going on, Naked Hog family? We decided to do a podcast, and we've done one in the past, but never really committed to doing them. But I think we're going to continue to do just like a weekly podcast. Now, I wanted to kind of have us sit down and talk with you guys and kind of explain how we got started in all of this.
How did the Naked Hog Farm become the Naked Hog
So
Farm?
we are actually filming out here in our farm stand. And you'll see the Naked Hog sign behind me if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, well, go follow us on YouTube. But we have our Naked Hog sign back behind us. Angie's sister and her husband do metal work in these cutouts, JPC cutouts, and they made this sign for us, and they did a great job. I love that sign.
Wasn't that a nice present? That was their Christmas present to us. So,
Yep. And this sign is actually going to go out by the road once we get our property fenced and all that good stuff, and that's going to be awesome to be able to show people.
I know.
So that when they're driving by, they see the name of the farm.
So we always have people that are just constantly driving by and just like waving their hands out the window and telling us how good of a job we're doing, and they're always saying, hey guys, and we have people like randomly just stop in. They pull in our driveway and they ask us, what are you growing? What are you doing? They watch our land change. They see our kids playing outside, and it's like a show for them, I guess. They drive slowly by and they slow down and they look out the window, and they want to see what are they up to today, So it's I think once we put that sign out there, I think people are actually gonna stop by and,
more often,
and they're gonna say, okay, so you guys are a farm, and then we'll be able to sell to them and tell them that we actually do a market garden. So I think that's a good invitation for people to see that sign and want to stop by. So
I think it'll be good. For sure. So where should we start? I think the year was 2014.
It was many moons ago.
So for those of you who don't know, I don't know if I've talked about it on our main channel or not, but I was in the Navy previously.
Right.
So right about the time I was getting out of the Navy, we decided to move up to Indiana because a good buddy of mine lives up there. And
so our farm, that's where our real step into farming, dipping our toes in the water, that's where it really began. In California before that, we had done a little bit of aquaponics, but that was like a...
that was in Indiana, in Fort Wayne.
Indiana, sorry. And we had done a little bit of aquaponics. Would you call that a failed experiment, or?
I don't know. Let's talk about that, kind of where that's. So when I was in the Navy, I was just getting out, and we decided to move up to Fort Wayne. We decided to move up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that I was going to school full time while you were working as a nurse.
Right.
And
we both, he had school and I had a job, and it was just we were city folk. We had never done any farming.
Yeah, we were living in a normal community with an HOA and all that good stuff. We had a corner lot, so we had a bigger yard than most of the other lots in the area. Right. But it wasn't anything huge or by any means.
We had a nice sized garage. And so we had plenty of space in the garage. So what made you actually want to try the aquaponics? I forgot what got you into it.
I was doing, to clarify my school, I was actually going to school. Most of it was online. I took one class it was in-seat class, but most of it was just online schooling through IU. And so I had a lot of time at home when the kids were at school. And I don't know, I've always kind of liked plants. We never really had a chance to grow gardens, but I've always kind of liked plants.
We loved having house plants. We loved, people with window boxes. We all, I liked flowers, but.
And I like doing things that are, Angie will tell you, I do a lot of crazy ideas sometimes, just out of the box ideas.
And he researches everything, like just random, wants to look this up, wants to Google this, research this. He will find stuff to learn about at night in the wee hours.
I do Google a lot of random stuff.
Yeah.
And so somehow I came across, I don't even remember how I came across it, but I came across aquaponics, which, if you don't know, is kind of a merging of hydroponics, which is growing in just water, and aquaculture, which is raising fish. And the idea is you raise the fish
A
with
symbiotic
you
relationship,
raise the fish in the same water that is used for the
Mhm.
for the plants, and then all the fish, all the stuff that comes out of the back end of the fish
Right.
goes to feed the plants.
So they fertilize and feed the plants, and they, make them continuously grow and keep them healthy. And they kind of, and I think they feed even off of the,
in some systems, they can even feed off of the roots and
Right.
the plant debris that falls down in there.
So the plants feed the fish, and the fish fertilize the plants, and it just goes around and around. So they provide the food.
So of course,
in theory,
with
good
any
idea.
great idea, you can't just stick your toes in. You have to jump head
Oh,
first.
and did we ever?
So,
oh my gosh.
so I had seen in doing my research, I had seen where vertical gardening was a thing that was up and coming.
Yeah.
So I decided to make my own plant towers out of I think it was 3-inch or 4-inch PVC pipe.
Yes,
You remember those?
Yes.
Sitting with the heat gun.
Yes.
And I would cut a hole in I would cut holes in the PVC pipe, take the heat gun and bend that hole out a little bit to fit the little cup in that we used for the plant.
So this whole structure and these huge IBC totes, these like massive.
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten to the fish yet.
Yeah, massive totes in the garage. So like I said, we had a spacious garage, right? So we go all out. We don't do anything halfway. We got to do everything just big and larger than life. So we had all these, pipes and all this. The plants were growing, and then came the fish, and then we got the
so
huge IBC
so the
totes,
fish.
water, and
So the plants I had all these big. We did two things. We did the vertical towers that I made. To hang on our little, I don't even know what you would call it. We had the little structure over the back porch.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hanging off some wood beams. Not really a gazebo, but it was like
the beginnings of a shade shelter thing, a lattice work shelter thing.
So it was hanging off of there, and then we had a big floating bed, which is like styrofoam floating on top of a big bed of water. And it was probably like 16 foot by 4 foot. Yes. So, and then it was a good, I don't know, I want to say maybe 2 feet deep. And then we had styrofoam floating on top of that, and the plants would sit in the styrofoam. Mm-hmm. So that's the outside, right? That's the plants that were sitting on the back porch. Mm-hmm. And then we had hose running from the plants that would cycle over into the garage. And the garage was a little bit more complicated setup. Mm-hmm. So we had 4 of those 300-gallon IBC totes, which they're big square cubes.
Yeah, just like massive fish tanks.
And so we took those totes, and I put together, I thought it was a pretty good setup that we got it working.
It was a system, and it was working.
We had a 55-gallon drum set up with as a biofilter, and then I had another 55-gallon drum set up with a centrifugal filter that filtered the main poop off.
Right.
And then, or it filtered the main waste off, and then the biofilter would help keep everything else clean and keep the ammonia from building up. And we actually did really well. So we had the 4 IBC totes connected. Then we had all the pipe work for the filters, and we had a submersible pump that we used to pump all the water. Yeah. And in the totes we first started with trying to do. We wanted to do trout. So I ordered trout eggs, and that didn't go very well. No. They actually developed some sort of fungal infection after they hatched.
So after we ordered the fish, after we ordered the eggs, and they're already there at the garage, and we're about to put them in and everything. Then, like I said, he researches and Googles a lot. He came across something that said, beware of the fungus that can come when you order fish eggs. A lot of times you will end up with a fungus on them, and it will get on the live fish, it'll get on the baby fish, and it'll kill them. It's a bad fungus.
Yeah, so
it infects their gills, and they can't breathe, and they'll die.
Yeah. And so I don't remember what it was called, but so the trout died off. They were like they were little bitty. We're talking they hatched and they got maybe an inch long,
they didn't live very long.
So then we decided to go with a little bit.
Catfish?
Well, so yeah, something a little bit more, resilient. So we got catfish in 3 of them, and then we did 1 tote with tilapia.
Yeah.
And guys, they thrived. They did well. But
have you ever had a large fish tank in a very confined area with no airflow, no air circulation, nothing, just a cold, dark room, just trapped in there with fish? Try it out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, so it got a little smelly. So in our furnace, of course, was in the garage. So a lot of the air from the garage would get sucked into the fan and recirculate throughout the house. So every now and then it would smell like fish aquarium. But success wise,
it was working.
They live. But if you ever try to raise catfish in a garage in a tote like that,
don't do it.
You gotta keep in mind that catfish jump.
Oh yeah.
Remember, we would come home and there'd be like 5 catfish just laying on the garage floor dead.
So that was fun. Yeah, we found out very quickly that they can jump like higher than you would ever expect. They can leap out of that tank, and they did.
So what would you say the worst part of having that was?
Besides the smell, the worst part was the getting rid of it part. Was the cleanup.
Yeah, we did. There was a lot of cleanup.
So when we were done, and done with aquaponics and decided like it wasn't as successful as we wanted it to be, and we realized that we didn't have the facilities and the proper setup to make this work on the scale that we wanted it to work on. Plus, we were going to be moving away soon, so we were just thinking, well, it's time to close up shop on aquaponics. Well, what do you do with all that stuff now? What do you do with the fish?
And guys, look, I was scared because every time we would have to open up our garage door, the neighbors, they thought we were crazy. I'm sure. I mean, what did they think? We got the smell just oozing out of the garage.
They probably thought we had got into some deal with drug lords or something, smuggling something. They thought we were hiding a dead body in there. I'm sure.
I don't know. Yeah, because here we are, 2-car garage. We parked both cars outside the garage, and we got these giant, massive totes, and all they hear is this hum of this pump running 24/7.
We won't open our garage, and we're being all secretive about it. Yeah, we're sneaking in and out, and we got some weird stuff being sent to the house. And they hear us putting together all this stuff, and I can only imagine what they thought.
Saws going at midnight.
Oh yeah.
I wish I could find the pictures. We have some pictures of it. I wish I could find them.
So
the plants grew really well. So in the towers, we planted lots of herbs. The herbs grew really well in those towers. So and in the
evidently fish
waste
does work, and fish waste does fertilize plants really well.
Well, and we supplemented too. You probably don't realize, but I supplemented with some liquid fertilizers and stuff like that. But we did. We did a bunch of lettuce. We did tomatoes. Mm-hmm. And we did the herbs in those towers.
Now the lettuce, this was like little lettuce. I mean, it never got like.
No, it did. It did. Like we had like romaine lettuce. Remember, we had tall romaine lettuce, and that's where we tried that Amish deer tongue lettuce. Was when we did that.
That's right.
Because it grew out. We had a lot of lettuce.
That grew really well. Yeah.
We were eating a lot of salad. Mm-hmm. Not as much lettuce as we have now.
Right.
But we had a good bit. I mean, for a backyard.
Right, for the little space we were working in. That was pretty good, I thought.
But the tomatoes never really set a lot of fruit. But I think that was just because the temperatures weren't right and they were just dropping blooms, or maybe they had calcium. It could have been a calcium problem too. I don't know.
And there's that whole, tomatoes are real finicky. They just need those right conditions, and we just didn't.
Yeah, tomatoes like to be loved.
We didn't give them the right conditions.
No, we didn't. But we grew lots of Thai basil too. And it loved it.
Now, basil, I think... You just have to work really hard to kill basil. Like it's
basil just likes to live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Basil's like a Kiko goat. It doesn't die.
It doesn't die.
Doesn't die. So then,
yeah.
so then we were moving.
Aquaponics.
We found a house that had a little bit more property. It was a 5-acre place, but 2.5 of those acres was actually being leased out to the farmer that was around us. It was.
It did not seem like that.
Yeah, but like I said, 2.5 of those acres was leased out to the farmer that was around us. It was basically a 2.5 acre lot because we didn't have use of the other 2.5 acres. Right in the middle of a 100-acre cornfield. Well, not right in the middle. It was on the road, but everything but the road was surrounded by corn, three sides of corn.
Picture, if you will, you have industrial farmers, industrial farmland all around you. You got pig farmers down the road.
Yeah, we had a pig farm right down the road.
And there is no such thing as there wasn't a tree for miles. I think there was one little tree on the plot that we were on the little small acres we were on, one tree. And then there's no trees, there's no tree line, there's no woods. It's just flat, open land.
Yeah, there's no hills in that area. If you've ever seen
cornfields and industrial farmland, it's just flat, wide open. You can see for miles. That's what we're in.
That's where we live.
Anything you put out there or anything that needs to not blow over, you can kiss it goodbye. It's gonna be going like. And oh my gosh, the wind would like knock my kids over.
Yeah,
like they would be holding on to the ground, crawling because the wind was like blowing them over.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so a couple things. There really wasn't any growing a garden out there because they sprayed with Roundup on a regular basis because it was Roundup corn, and they did it. They did it via plane, right? They crop dusted everything. So. Being surrounded by the corn and having that little plot, there's no way that the Roundup wasn't just blowing over. It was definitely when they would spray.
The big machines and the combines just rolling by, and it was time to seed, and it was time to harvest, and everything. We knew when it was time for stuff because we would just see them rolling by.
But our small venture into backyard and garage farming, kind of whetted our taste buds for kind of getting into the farm life.
That's probably what did it. That's how we lit that little spark. Because then we decided that maybe we could take on animals.
So did we get? Was it the meat chickens or the pigs we got first?
So the very first ones, it was.
Wasn't it the meat chickens? So I had been watching videos even before we moved. I'd been watching videos and I came across. John Soskovich. And if you don't know him, look him up. He has a really good system if you're looking to get into the chicken business. But I've been watching a lot of his videos, and he has a really cool chicken tractor. Really the only chicken tractor that I like. All the other ones are either really heavy and clunky or they're real short. You can't get in them. They're not functional. His is it's light, functional, really easy to use. If you're looking for a chicken tractor design, go check his out.
My family and my grandparents and my great-grandparents, they always had backyard chickens, and they had, free-range chickens, and they didn't really have like a coop or anything they shut them up in at night. They would like go into like a shed or a barn, and they would just, they were country people, like really, really deep South country people. So they didn't have anything like a chicken tractor, and they didn't do anything like we do it nowadays. They just they had some backyard chickens that they just threw some corn to and fed every now and then. So that was my experience and knowledge with chickens. That's as far as I knew about what you do to keep chickens.
Yeah,
that was all I knew.
And here I come, and I'm like, hey, honey, this is how we need to do it. We got to build this whole contraption. And so we ordered the chicks. Mm-hmm. We ordered, I think we ordered 30. Was it 30 or 50 the first time? I think it was 30.
It was 30.
We ordered 30 chickins. We ordered it from a hatchery.
That's right. We're letting them raise meat.
Yep. So we ordered 30 chickens. We built we ordered 30 chicks, and we built the chicken tractor. Mm-hmm. Got the first batch of chicks in. And you remember what happened with the first batch that we got in?
Yeah. So
we got them in.
I get so excited because we've never ordered chicks before, and I was just so excited. So my kids have never actually held a baby chick, and they were just beyond excited. They were just waiting, and they couldn't even sleep that night because we were expecting a call from the post office any minute now to come get the baby chicks. And I was just on pins and needles. So I get the call. I go down there. It's dark, and the lady meets me with the box and hands it to me from the post office. And I hear a tiny little chirp coming from the box. and nothing else in the box. And I don't hear a lot of movement or anything, but I thought they were all like being still, or maybe they were sleeping.
We never ordered chicks before, so we didn't
I didn't know
know.
anything about chicks. I thought maybe they were all asleep. So I thanked her, and I just got in the car and I left, and I brought it home, and the kids are all excited, and we're like holding it like it's glass, and we're just ease it down. And we just cut the straps off,
and then you open it up
like a present, and we're just expecting these beautiful baby chicks to come popping out of here. Well, they were all dead.
Yeah. Oh, I think it was one. Was there one? There was one that lived. One that lived.
The little tiny chirp, the little tiny helpless peep that I heard from there was one chick that was alive in there.
Yeah. So we had a bad experience with the first hatchery, but
we were devastated.
We did. Kids were crying. Yeah, they were upset. Yeah. And so I did call the hatchery back, and they gave us our money back, and we ordered from a different hatchery. We actually ordered, the second hatchery we ordered from was Meyer Hatchery, and they arrived in pristine condition, and actually they had sent extras that, so.
It was a very good experience. So that was the chick experience I was hoping for. We get the box, and it's a lively box. It's full of I can feel
it's chirping the minute you pick it up from the
box is basically vibrating with chicks, So open it up and got all these cute little baby chicks. And we got the Cornish cross.
Yeah, we got Cornish cross. Now the brooder, you remember where we had the brooder for the chicks? The brooder we had in the basement. So if you guys have never if you guys have never raised chicks in your house before, you should try it. It's an experience and a smell you'll never forget.
So just kind of like with the fish, I was starting to notice a pattern here with animals. I was starting to notice things as I raise animals. Anything in an enclosed environment is going to smell. It's not going to do well. So I was thinking, the animals have to be out. They have to be out in the air and open air and sunshine.
And this brooder, and it was good at first. It was good. So we used pine shavings in there, and we made sure it stayed clean and everything. But it doesn't matter. It still smells. And again, we put it right next to the furnace. Yeah. Where that furnace was drawing in some of that air from right there, and it would just blow through the whole house.
And I thought it was a cool setup. You built a really good brooder box. It was this big long rectangle box, and all the shavings.
Yeah, it had the shavings, and had the heat lamps hanging down.
The waters, and it was a cool setup. And the chicks were happy. It's just the cleanup. Oh my gosh, the cleanup.
Yeah, so the basement wasn't the best idea. It wasn't our brightest moment. But 4 weeks later, we had them out on the grass. Right. So that wasn't a big. So they grow fast. Maybe even 3 weeks later, and so we built this Soskovich style. I built this Soskovich style tractor with Sarah, our oldest, and it worked really well. Yeah. I mean, if you go back and look at our very first YouTube videos, this is when we first started YouTube, when we put these chickens out.
Also, our first adventure in chickens was our adventure into YouTube. So YouTube was becoming a really big thing, and this was years ago, so it was becoming this big thing. I didn't know much about YouTube, so I started watching YouTube videos, and I started watching all the John Soskovich videos, and felt like I was gaining more confidence. Okay, we can try this.
So
then, know what they're doing,
So then, right about the time that we put the chickens out on the grass, we decided to venture into another type of animal entirely.
Well, and see, that was kind of my fault. So an opportunity fell. I'll take that one. That was my fault. An opportunity fell into our laps to, like I said, there's lots of big industry pig houses around there. Lots of big pig farms. One was our neighbor right down the road. So at this one particular place, this guy that had been raising all these hogs was going to just sell them to the.
He was selling to an industrial farm, right? Yeah, he raised pigs. He bred pigs and just sold them off to industrial. I don't know how he made much money doing it, but he sold off. He had tons of pigs.
He had so many pigs. But he had them in the same kind of conditions I imagine that they do in the hog houses. They, he had them.
Yeah, it was a lot of muck and nasty.
It was kind of muck and nasty, and he had them all shoved together and everything. Yep. And these are the same breed of pigs that they use.
But they were healthy.
In the hog houses.
Yeah, they were healthy.
They were healthy, and there was nothing wrong with them. They were just dirty from head to toe.
And they were pretty good pigs. They were Yorkshire Berkshire crosses.
Yeah.
No, Yorkshire Hampshire crosses.
Yorkshire Hampshire crosses, right? And we found out what that was. Yeah, we
Yeah.
never raised pigs in our life, But
So we
this
decided
guy
to go get 2 of them.
was selling them for a really good price, and I don't remember how I
They're
came
like
across him.
15. I think Craigslist. So one thing that we don't talk a whole lot about on YouTube is Angie's Craigslist addiction.
I have a little bit.
So she looks a lot on Craigslist, and this has been the case for many a years.
Yes.
So she found this ad on Craigslist, and we were going to go get 2 of these piglets.
I think it started out as it started out as, honey, we're just gonna go look, and then it turned into, well, we can actually get 1 or 2, and you said 1 or 2. Well, we get there.
So we get there, and we end up coming home with 4 piglets. Now,
cute pink baby.
We are still real green at this point in the animal husbandry and raising animals and doing the homesteading thing. So we brought them home. So again, with the smells, we had a minivan at the time, and we had not a giant cardboard box, like probably about the size of, if you go to Lowe's and were to look at like a medium box that they sell at Lowe's.
They were little.
Like it was a cardboard box. And put these piglets in there that just came out of the nasty muck and smelly stuff that they were in. And so give me 1 second here. I'm going to reset this camera. All right. And we're back, guys. So where we leave off? We left off coming home with the pigs in the cardboard box in the van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what do we do with them?
Yeah. So we hadn't really, we saw that we wanted the pigs. We got the pigs, but we hadn't set anything up for the pigs to put them in when we got home.
So I had to kind of hold on to the pigs in this box and keep them in a very tight enclosed area until he could hurry up and get out there and put up some sort of fencing.
Yeah, so we put up this quick little area of fencing. It was probably, I want to say, I don't know. I want to say it was like 12 foot by 12 foot little area with fencing.
Right.
And then we put an electric wire. Well, the first day or 2, we had just had that fencing. Mm-hmm. Then we finally went back and we did some more research and put up electric fencing. So we set in some electric fencing about, about 4 or 5 inches just inside the fence to get them used to and trained to electric fencing.
And like I said, we did do some research, but we definitely were not prepared. We didn't prepare ourselves ahead of time to get these pigs. It was just kind of a jump in. Like I said, we don't do anything halfway. We just jump in with both feet and just kind of hope we land straight.
Yeah. So then, since these 4 pigs were so cute, we started doing, I don't even remember why we started looking, but we started looking at different pig breeds.
Well, and then we got really, really interested in the idea that we can do it better than the industrial farmers. We wanted to raise meat that had not been raised the way that we were seeing it raised all around us. And we started getting really into the idea of raising our own food. And that's when we got really more towards the idea of raising animals better, treating animals better. We didn't like how they were being treated in the industrial market today, and how we didn't like how our meat gets from a live animal to the store. We didn't like how that process was happening, and we just kind of went against that whole thing and said, we can do it better. We can raise pigs better than that.
Yeah. So we, in researching breeds, we decided that we didn't have enough pigs with those 4. We were going to go get 2 more. We started out with 2 more, right?
Right.
So we went and we got 2 large black pigs. Large black, not being just their color, but their breed. If you look them up, large black is actually a breed of pigs. Big old cute floppy ears.
It's a heritage breed.
Yeah, it's a heritage breed. And so we raised those, and
those were our first large blacks, and ever since then we have kind of fallen in love with that breed. We like other breeds of pigs, but large black is our favorite.
So a couple things about the large blacks is they put on fat, but it's not just all on their back. They actually put on fat pretty evenly, so they're pretty well marbled. And then They're also really kind of a docile,
Yeah.
gentle pig, if that's the thing.
Yeah.
And they're not aggressive. Even the boars aren't aggressive.
No, none at all.
So they're just giant dogs.
They're so sweet. And we had them all petable, you know, by the time we raised out those 4 pigs we started with, and then the large blacks, and we got them up to size. They had been snuggled on every day by our whole family, loved on, petted on. I mean, you could go out there and call them by name, and when you rub on them, we could get them to roll over so they get a belly scratch, you know, just like a giant dog.
Yep.
Just really docile.
So we had we ended up fencing off with just electric fence. We didn't put hard fencing up, just electric fence. We fenced off about, I want to say, a half acre. We fenced off about a half acre, maybe not even that. Probably less than that. Probably like a quarter acre or a third of an acre.
Somewhere around there, between quarter and half.
Yeah. So
Small
we fenced it off with 3 strands of electric fence, no hard fencing, and the pigs actually stayed in.
Right.
They never got out, ever. Not once.
Training them to electric actually does work. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done it. It works.
Yep, it worked. It was just the polywire that polywire. And we didn't even buy like the expensive poly. It was whatever the cheapest stuff Tractor
And even
Supply
if we had just forgotten to turn it on that day, or even if it wasn't on, they don't touch it. They don't try it. They respect that because they've been popped by it before. They respect that electric fence. So
so when you're training pigs to electric fence, what we learned was when you're doing it when they're piglets, you have to have the hard fencing there. So when their instinct when they first hit the electric is to actually run through. But when they're piglets and they learn that when they run through, all they run into is that hard fence and they still get popped, they keep getting shocked, they back up and they learn to not run through the electric fence.
They learn that there's no way out, so they don't try.
So that was really good. And we did a really good experience raising pigs in Indiana. We learned how much feed they go through because we had this romanticized idea that they were going to eat mostly our grass and root up whatever was in the ground out there.
So that's another reason I'm grateful for the jumping into something and the learning part of it, because all of our romantic ideas just kind of went out the window and we found out the reality of the situation pretty quickly. So there is a large cost that comes along with raising pigs, especially if you're going to raise them the way that we came to understand was a better way. If you're going to raise them yourself, you got to pay the feed bill, so you got to feed them.
Yep, and they ate a lot. Now, thankfully, we actually had a grain mill. Remember, we had a grain elevator right down the road from us.
That was nice.
So it was literally minutes down the road, and it was a lot cheaper than buying feid at Tractor Supply.
Yeah,
but we weren't.
Yeah, we weren't doing a Tractor Supply.
Yeah, and we weren't doing. We weren't doing what a lot of people do and just feed them out on corn.
No.
Because it's not healthy for them. It's like feeding them candy their whole life. So we made sure and gave them an actual hog feed that was for them.
And any extra produce we could get our hands on.
I forgot about that.
The restaurants and the stores that have all their waste stuff, their waste for veggies and stuff. We didn't give them just anything, but breads every now and then, some meat and stuff, just scraps they would throw out. And then a lot of milk that had expired or gone by technically expired, but it was still good. And we would just give it to the pigs. So they got a lot of produce and a lot of just mixture of
now,
natural foods.
A lot of their produce, and this is really where us being introduced to the small scale vegetable farming came in.
Yeah.
Because
so we also got a taste of that too. Yeah.
There was a guy that lived about 10-15 minutes from us, a family, not just a guy, I guess, but a family. And his name was Kevin Cooley, and the Cooley family farm. He had a big sign up.
Cooley farm.
Yeah, he had about a 5-acre area, and we had never gone and bought anything from him until I decided one day I'd read about how you should talk to small farmers and stuff about getting their culls and their bad produce that they can't sell at the farmer's market to feed it to your animals. So I stopped by and I brought this giant blue, I don't think it was 55-gallon, whatever it was. Lowe's sold these cheap, they may still sell them, I don't know, these cheap, thin plastic blue bins with a lid on them. Looks like a trash can.
Yeah.
And I took like 1 or 2 of those with me and I stopped by and I just asked him, I said, hey, I see that you grow a lot of food and sell it. And do you ever have any waste that you can't sell, you have to throw out? And he said, yeah, I do. I have a lot of times during, how winter squash and things like that goes bad and I can't sell it, or gets a hole in it or broken or whatever. And so I asked him if I could leave that bin there and have him just fill it up. So that worked out really well, and we started getting a lot of that and feeding it to the pigs. Mm-hmm. What it also did is we were introduced to him, and we started buying from him on a weekly basis, on a regular basis.
So that made us a friend, and we got some calls from him. And more importantly, most importantly is the friendship. But the other secondary part of that was he introduced us to the idea of buying local produce,
mm-hmm.
Buying from a local farmer. So.
And not just buying from a local farmer, but not having to go to the farmer's market. Yeah. That you can actually sell your produce from the farm and be successful at it.
So he said, I think you told me that he had been working at this idea, selling from his own place, from his own market.
For years.
For like 10 years. Yeah, I think it had taken like 10 years to finally get to where he could quit his job and actually make money from his own farm.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 10 years. I know he sold at the farmer's market for like 3 years.
Yeah, for a long time.
And then he decided that he was tired of going to the farmer's market, mm-hmm. and he decided to go over and just do selling from his farm. Now they don't sell all the time now anymore. I think he's retired from doing that, but they still grow a lot. And every now and then you can look them up on Facebook, the Cooley Family Farm, mm-hmm. and they'll post on there every now and then. They post that they're open and they have some extra strawberries or whatever it is they're growing. They grow a little everything.
Tell Kevin we say hi.
And so the pigs, they were loving all the butternut squash and the pumpkins and the acorn squash and all the summer squash. Like there was some yellow squash and things like that in there. They were loving life.
The girls, they loved going to the Cooley farm, because they got to go inside the farm stand and they'd see everything that was in season and everything he had handmade, and it was a great shopping experience for them to actually go and see what somebody else had actually grown themselves. It was this wonderful idea that we had never done,
Yep. So it was really good. It was really, really, really good. I really liked that. And then the pigs, they started getting, bigger and bigger, closer to slaughter weight. And
they were definitely slaughter weight.
We decided that we never actually bred pigs up there, but we decided that we wanted to give it a try. Remember that?
Yeah, we were going to try.
So we looked up a large black hog producer, I guess he's a breeder, a large black hog breeder down there, or up there. And this farm came up. It was a really nice farm. Mm-hmm. So we decided to go down. I drove down and picked up this boar that was young. He was still young. He was still piglet. He was maybe 60 pounds. He brings home this
cute piglet,
Yeah.
It's so little, but that's going to be our breeding boar.
So
he's pretty,
We did this a little bit smarter this time. I took a dog cage down there with me this time. Not a cardboard box, a dog cage.
Right.
And
doing better.
The farm, when I got there, I had never seen a pig that big in my life. That thing had to have been 1,000 pounds.
There was a dinosaur pig there.
When I got there, it was big. I swear to you, standing on all fours, the thing had to have been up to my chest.
We didn't know pigs could get that big.
It was huge. Yeah. Huge.
Oh, I know.
Huge.
So that's the stock that this little breeding piglet came from.
So we got him, and then he grew some, and then he wasn't quite to the age of breeding yet, but we ended up, that's when we decided to move down to Louisiana. So
that news, before we decided to move, though, we had also gotten goats.
You're right. I forgot about that.
So along with our first adventure in chickens, our first adventure in pigs, along with that, to just, that just wasn't enough. We had to top it off with goats. Now, this was a fabulous experience with goats. That was by far my favorite. I like the chickens. I love the pigs. But by far my favorite has to be the goats, and still is. Yep. Love the goats.
So we have some really good friends up in Indiana, and they they had goats.
Mm-hmm.
And
they were actually members of our church.
Yep. And they were looking to sell 2 of their goats.
Right.
And so we were looking to milk goats. And they happened to be, one of them was a Saanen, which is a really good milk breed, and then a really good dairy breed. And then the other one was half Kiko, half Saanen. And she is a really good goat. And she doesn't give as much milk as a straight Saanen, but she still gives a decent amount of milk and really hardy. So Kikos are super hardy.
Because along with the idea of raising our own meat, we thought we would like to have our own milk. So instead of, we had this very small plot we were living on. So instead of going all in and buying a cow, thank goodness we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Instead of buying a cow, we decided milk goats was the way to go. So our friend just happened to have dairy goat breeds.
Yep.
So we decided we could milk goats.
Yeah, so we bought 2 goats. We put together some quick fencing. Again, if you go back and watch some of our old videos on our main channel, it's all in there. But when you walk out our back door, you walked out the back door into the goat pen.
Right. It's
and then
a good area.
You walk through our little makeshift gate going into the barn.
To the barn, yep.
And then right next to that was the pigs. So you picture we had a square house. Behind the house was the pigs. On the side of the house, and we're talking all the way up to the house. And then on the side of the house, all the way up to the house, was goats. And then when we were going to try and garden, we had the pigs, remember, we had the pigs actually wrap all the way around into the front yard to kind of root up the grass.
Right. So they were doing all of our tilling and preparing the soil, and we were going to let the soil settle after that. We were going to let all the pig waste kind of work in. And we had this whole long-term plan and everything. Well, then came, we're moving to Louisiana. My family had some major changes, and we had some people getting older in my family, and they really wanted us to move down there because I'm from Louisiana, born and raised here. All of my family is here.
We moved to Louisiana.
Maybe we should go back home. So then comes the question, well, then what are you going to do with all these animals?
So the pigs, we decided that by this point the chickens were ready to slaughter. Actually, I think we had slaughtered the chickens before this.
And we did slaughter the chickens. That was our first time slaughtering any animal ever was chickens.
So we slaughtered
them ourselves. It turned out really well.
It turned out well. The hardest part was at that point the hardest part was plucking. We did have a friend who had a plucker that he had made that actually saved us a lot of work.
If you know someone with a chicken plucker, if you don't have your own, borrow the chicken plucker. You need it. Yeah.
But, it was our first time, and I thought it went really well for chickens. I mean, really it's never going to be my favorite thing to do, but I thought it went really well. And then, but we had to do some of the animals, so we decided we were going to go ahead and slaughter all the pigs, and that we were going to put them in the freezer, and then we were going to keep the goats and bring the goats with us at some point.
Now, the hardest part ever, I think the hardest roadblock that he and I had ever come up against was we had to kill our pig, to eat it, to slaughter it, you have to kill it. And that we had never, like I said, we had done the chickens, but killing a pig is a whole different ballgame. I mean, this is something that we've loved and snuggled on, and it had names, and it was a lot more emotionally challenging than we ever thought. Yeah. But I mean, obviously we did it. We got past it, and we slaughtered our animals, took care of them the right way, and they were delicious, actually. Yeah, so it turned out really well. We I used a 22 to you like draw an X between the eyes and the ears, and then you use a 22 to put them down. And then you cut through their jugular to bleed them out after they fall to the ground. But it was, it was an enlightening experience because it was really the hardest part for me, and this is still the case with any animal I do. The hardest part is that I don't want the animal to suffer. Right. And so knowing that if I misplaced the shot, the animal would suffer, that really was something that was hard for me. So luckily we had a really good experience with the first pigs we did. We had a really, really good experience. And so anyway, we got the pigs slaughtered. We got them in the freezer, in the deep freezer. We got them,
we didn't really have a lot of space to butcher them. We didn't have anywhere out in the barn to butcher them, so we used the kitchen table or the dining room table.
We used our table.
Yep. So we did all that. First experience, it took us like all night one night in the freezing cold. It was like midnight by the time we got the first pig gutted and actually ready to even be butchered. Right. But after that, it got quicker and quicker.
Oh, yeah. Like, so, just the whole process of, disemboweling and all the cuts and trying to get it right once you've got the pig hanging and everything. So just all of that is all learning. It's all learning experience. But like I said, once you do
it wasn't, you learn it, it's not too bad.
Yeah, the next one will be better.
Yep. And we actually, our friends that we bought the goats from, he came over and he helped us slaughter the last 2 or 3 of them, I think, just so we can get them done faster.
He had so much more experience than we did, so
that
was helpful.
Yep, hugely helpful. And then, we gave him one of the pigs just because, he came over and helped and everything. That's a lot of work. So, so
they babysat our goats while we traveled down to Louisiana when we got the U-Haul loaded up and we all left and everything. So our friends that we bought the goats from, they were going to babysit our goats until we could come back and get them and transport them because we couldn't take the goats and the kids and the house all loaded up. We couldn't take all of it all at once. So
so and I think this is kind of a natural breaking point. We left the goats there for about a month, and I was actually traveling. I was transferring to Louisiana on my job, but I was still working in Indiana when I first moved you down for about a month.
Right.
So moved the family down back into the city with a tiny the backyard may be as big as this farm stand room, tiny backyard, and I guess maybe double the size. It wasn't quite as small, but
you can imagine. After having wide open spaces and getting so into raising my own food and farming and everything, and then shoved in this tiny little box, so to speak. So I'm going stir crazy. I'm ready to not be in the city.
So I'm back up in Indiana working for about a month and traveling back and forth on the weekends from Indiana to Louisiana, and then it comes time to move the goats. And I think that's a good breaking point we can save for next week's podcast.
All right. So when we finally made it down here to Louisiana, that was a whole nother chapter and a whole nother book.
And it was very, very interesting.
So that is a story we'll have to tell you about in the next podcast.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you like this podcast, let us know something new that we're trying. We're going to try and do this on a weekly basis. I don't know exactly what day it's going to happen every week yet. But we're gonna try and work it out to where we're posting it on a certain day every week, and kind of I kind of like sitting down and being able to bring you guys a little bit of extra detail and a little bit of background and kind of go into things. You guys
kind of see where we're at now. You see the finished product, but you don't know everything that came before. Like a lot of whoopses, a lot of turns, a lot of mistakes brought us here. So a lot of times we go, ask us how we know because we've done it. We fell into that whole trap. We tried this, we tried that. So we like to give you guys that backstory because it wasn't always the Naked Hog Farm.
No, and if you guys don't know us and you're not familiar with us, go check us out on our main channel. Just look up Naked Hog on YouTube. It'll pop up, and you'll see kind of where we are right now. Long way from where we started. Long way from where we started.
Thank goodness. And still much more to come. So we will tell you about our adventures in Louisiana on the next podcast.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out one of these videos over on our main channel.